Hello. Welcome to my new channel Gratiative Crafts. This will be my channel for air dry clay making tutorials, tips, techniques. If you share a love for crafting as a hobby, or want to create beautiful handcrafted products as gifts to others, or even sell. Stay tuned to more fun inspirations, ideas, and showcase of my personal handmade products. This channel is meant for anyone who is interested in learning clay making on any level. Let's craft beautiful creations together. Today's video will be about things I wished I knew before I started out clay making. I will be sharing my own tips, skills, and key lessons that I have learnt from my clay making journey of a few years. If you are ever wondering or interested to learn and gain more skills on air dry clay making, this video is the right place for you. Air dry clay is one of the best, versatile, and friendly material to create many multi-purpose products. It is my favorite material I choose to work with as it is very flexible, safe, easy to learn and inexpensive. Air dry clay works can be done in a batch, or as single items. It can be kept and reused to work on as many different creations as you like. Let's start with point number 1, the preparation of materials and tools. Different brands and types of clay can differ greatly in texture, consistency, weight, and drying time. It is good to experiment and try different brands to see which suits you best. I have tried various and settled with Jovi Air Dry Clay, which I found to work best for me. Jovi Air Dry Clay has a smooth texture, which is easy to mold and shape. It is made with natural ingredients and hardens in a lightweight consistency. The main tools I use for clay making are the basics such as clay knife, shaping and marking tools. Other essential materials are water, and a wet cloth or sponge. The awesome part of clay making is that any object can be made into a useful tool for crafting. For example, I use my metal ruler for cutting clay, a pencil for a shaping tool, and a brush to touch up and moisten clay. You don't necessarily need to purchase excessively expensive tools outside. Make use of the tools around your home that you already have on hand. Clay making is a very cost-saving activity. While working with clay, be prepared to get your hands dirty. Wipe your hands with wet cloth frequently. You'll need a clear table workspace to place a table mat or non-stick cover over the table, as it can get quite wet and sticky. Make ample space for your materials and to work on the clay. The second point is the importance and usefulness of water in working with air dry clay. Water is a must-have when it comes to clay. Condition or wedge the clay by mixing it well with water. It helps to soften and shape the clay easier. Water can prevent hardening of clay and can revive hardened clay back into soft clay again. It can also be used to smoothen any imperfections or to go over any mistakes made on carvings in the clay. But you want to be careful with the amount of water, depending on how much clay you are working with. Don't soak the clay with too much water, but just enough to soften or moisten it. Too much water can make the clay become too sticky and hard to shape. You can use a spray, wet cloth, or sponge with water. An important tip is on how to prevent the clay from drying out and keeping it for a longer time. I keep my leftover clay wrapped in the packaging and stored in an airtight box. Another way is to seal it with plastic wrap or with a wet cloth. As long as the clay is kept away from air with enough moisture, it can stay fresh even if you are not using it for a long time. For the third point, it is sanding of clay. When I first started out clay making, I did not sand my clay pieces and it gave a very rough and harsh texture. This made the painting become uneven and unappealing. Sanding clay after it has dried helps to smoothen the surface to get rid of any rough bits or edges. This makes painting easier and more even. Here comes the fourth point, the types of paint to use on clay. Different paint will have different textures and effects on the clay surface. I typically stick to acrylic paint for painting my pieces. It is a water-resistant and durable paint, which can be made waterproof after sealing. Other paints such as watercolor or gouache paint can be used too. Watercolor paint absorbs well in clay, but as it reactive to water, it will dissolve again if in contact with water. Types of paint textures, such as gloss or matte acrylic paint, also makes a difference in appearance. After that is the fifth point, which is varnishing. Adding the varnish layer helps to protect the surface layer of the paint, and also adds an extra satisfying finish. I use Liquitex Gloss Varnishment for acrylic paint. It is recommended to use a varnish suited for the type of paint you're using. For varnishing, it usually takes mine 3 hours for each layer to dry before adding a new coat. You can add on multiple layers to make the surface even thicker. Follow the drying time of your varnish according to its own instructions. Let's move on to the sixth point, which is planning and drafting of ideas to clay make. When there are a bunch of ideas in my mind, I start out by sketching and drafting them out on paper, in order to visualize the design and end result. It is a good tip to plan out the type of products you wish to produce, such as earrings, keychains, charms, necklaces or bracelets. Then you would want to plan the materials and supplies to get for making those accessories. For example, you need screw bales, jump rings and metal hooks to make earrings. It is also useful to outline on paper first, then cutting them out as templates to follow. We've come to the seventh point, trusting the process and practice. Arts and crafts activities like clay making can be a trial and error process. Try out, experiment, and explore new ideas of what works. There are times of unexpected end results, and you can be prepared to fail or do over again. It is okay to not have them come out as perfectly as you envisioned. Clay making is a craft and skill that requires practice, and the more you do it, the better you get. Give yourself time to be familiar with working on the materials. Start off first with simple projects, and once you get the hang of it, move on to more complex or harder creations. Lastly, it is important to enjoy yourself and have fun in the process. It is okay to make mistakes. Remember to love whatever you are doing and creating. All the best to your clay making journey. And this is it for today's video. Thank you for staying here throughout with me, and I hoped you gained some valuable tips and insights on things I wish I knew before clay making. Now you can dive into clay making with ease and confidence. If you have any more questions or thoughts about the points I mentioned in this video, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. Stay tuned to my channel, as I will be posting frequently from now on of clay tutorials, tips and fun videos. I will be adding in the links to my social media and website down below in my description. See you again.